Welcome back to Yang Daily. I'll be your host, Alex Cheney, bringing you all the Yang news you need to live your life right. Holy cow, do we have big news today? Trust me, you're gonna like this. Let's dig in. I have excellent news to start us off. 11 mayors of major U.S. cities, in combination with the Economic Security Project, have created a coalition to conduct and advocate for guaranteed income trials across the country at the city, state, and federal levels. The mayors are Michael Tubbs of Stockton, California, Roz Baraka of Newark, New Jersey, Steve Benjamin of Columbia, South Carolina, Keisha Bottoms of Atlanta, Georgia, Aja Brown of Compton, California, Melvin Carter of St. Paul, Minnesota, Eric Garcetti of Los Angeles, California, Chokwe Lumumba of Jackson, Missouri, Adrian Perkins of Shreveport, Louisiana, Libby Schaaf of Oakland, California, and Victoria Woodards of Tacoma, Washington. Tacoma's right next to me. So cool. The combined population of their cities is 7 million people. Each of these cities currently have some form of basic income trial going on, but all will be supporting their own public trial through various funding mechanisms. But as of this writing, a 12th mayor has already joined, Mayor Robert Garcia of Long Beach City. Now, I should note that the guaranteed income that they are advocating for is not exactly the same as UBI. It is targeted to the most needy instead of being universal, but it is not conditional otherwise. Why they are doing that instead of making it universal and taxing it back from those who don't need it, I can't really say. Maybe they think this is more palatable to pitch to the public at first. I can't imagine that people like Mayor Tubbs don't know by now that universal is a better way to operate, but we can work on that. They also make clear it's a supplement and not a replacement for welfare. Point is, this is the biggest thing to happen for UBI since Andrew Yang. And the most important part is that it's 12 mayors now, but it can and will grow as we've already seen. And that's where we come in, gang. We need to be all over petitioning our mayors to join this movement. Tell them about the mayoral coalition that has already investigated this idea and approved it. Give them the skinny on why UBI is the best thing we can do for society and that it is a net value generator. Give them the link below to join up. Let them know that 88% of Americans now support UBI and that there can be no better policy for the people, for their legacy, or for their re-election. It's time to go true grassroots. We can keep working on the senators, but nothing will convince them more than getting every mayor in the country on board with UBI. And that's not all. The Times has declared Andrew Yang one of the top 100 most influential people in the world. Time100 hosted Yang in combination with a group of other influential people, from CDC Director Dr. Robert Redfield, civil rights icon Ruby Bridges, Chef and Food Network host Guy Fieri, journalist Katie Couric, and Jordan Sparks. They spoke with Andrew about UBI, COVID, racism, all the greatest hits. Pretty general stuff, but a good interview and very cool that he's there. The Supreme Court struck down an attempted restriction on abortion access in Louisiana. The law would have prevented doctors from performing abortions unless they had admitting privileges at a nearby hospital, and some hospitals are reluctant to grant such privileges to doctors who support abortion. The court ruled over a similar case in Texas, so they were reinforcing their precedent in this case, with Chief Justice Roberts again joining the liberal justices, though he did make remarks about situations differing from state to state that suggested he might rule differently on similar laws in the future. Author and technosociologist Zeynep Tufekci posted a thread on coronavirus that I wanted to highlight today. She was upset that the media keeps using pictures of people on beaches when they're trying to scare the public about risks of coronavirus, when the bigger threat comes from a gathering indoors, and she's right about that. Outside, in the open air, with space to spread out, and with disinfecting sunlight all around, it's much lower risk than inside with recirculated air, confined spaces, and no sun. Zeynep points to frequent low-key social gatherings of 5 to 10 people in apartments as the real threat, and argues that cities should reopen public spaces like beaches and parks because it is irrational to expect people not to socialize. They're going to do it one way or another, and we should be offering a low-risk, public, outdoor venue with clear guidelines. Makes a lot of sense to me. It's just not realistic to expect everyone to turn off millions of years of social evolution for months at a time. We need to be smarter about how we handle this. It seems like we just had the last one, but the date for the next basic income march is already set for September 19th. I can't wait to see what kind of turnout we get this time after everything that's happened. Follow the link below to post your own event or to see others in your area, and bookmark it to keep checking back in every few weeks. Today, Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, a UBI strategy meeting will be held by Income Movement via Zoom call to discuss how to proceed with the movement from here. Link to the call is below. Apparently, the Daily Beast printed an article about Van Jones secretly meeting with the White House to help devise Trump's police reform bill, and a lot of people are up in arms about it, calling him everything from a morally bankrupt journalist to a political traitor to a race traitor. Of course, it turned out that Jones said he hadn't been in the White House all year, and the last time he worked on police reform legislation was 2018, back before the rest of the country suddenly cared. But that apparently hasn't gotten in the way of many people taking this article as proof of their pre-existing bias against Van for whatever reasons. Just to cover these allegations briefly, if you're upset that he didn't disclose his working on police reform legislation, let's not pretend an article from the Daily Beast is proof. Jones denies it, and until there is some actual evidence, we should favor innocence. That is how justice is supposed to work in this country, even though many seem to not know or care. If you're upset that he worked with Trump on a bill that wasn't ideal, let me remind you that we live in a democracy where the only way that government functions is by people who don't agree on things working together to make some progress regardless of the fact. I'm sick of seeing idiots on Twitter who have never done a damn thing to make the world a better place, spending their time doing the exact opposite by trying to cancel everyone who is trying to do something to help us all. Here's the next newsflash. Pretty much any legislation that a progressive considers perfect is never going to pass, and writing bills that never get enacted is not progress. That is why real progressives are willing to find consensus or compromise to make some progress instead of none. Van Jones is a real progressive. Andrew Yang is a real progressive. Those hating on Van are armchair progressives, better known as stagnatives, as they are actively opposing progress by trying to cancel real progressives. There are a lot of these types in Bernie's camp, and there are sadly a lot of them in the Yang Gang as well. They are radicals, and they are hurting the very cause that they want to advance. It's an easy trap to fall into, particularly when you're frustrated at the gridlock in Washington, and the ills of our democratic process, and the media are biased against you. It's easy to give up on democracy, to turn to purism and tribalism, settling for nothing short of ideological perfection, and denouncing anyone who dares to compromise on anything. This is the ideology of those who call Yang a sellout for so much as talking to CNN's audience, or calling him and Bernie both sellouts for supporting Biden after they lost the primary. These people are, quite frankly, not living in the real world. They've abandoned that world because it's too difficult, because it's easier to crow about idealistic policy than to do the dirty work of dealing with people who disagree and actually accomplishing something. It's a trap that we all fall into sometimes, but we can't stay there if we want to make the world a better place, for ourselves, for our families, for our fellow humans. So keep your eyes peeled for mental traps, and help others see what they've fallen into. They're no more evil or stupid than the rest of us. They're just in the thick of it right now, and having trouble seeing past their own nose. We need to convince them too, because as we just discussed, the only way to progress as a nation is to work with those you disagree with. That is democracy. That's humanity first. That's Yang Gang. And that'll do it for today's Yang Daily. Follow the 12 mayors for UBI, as well as the Economic Security Project, and ask your mayor to join them. While you're at it, ask them to support regulated outdoor social gathering sites. Sign up for the Basic Income March. Help advocate for clear, fundamental policy goals for the protests. If you're going out to protest, wear protection, especially on your eyes, head, and throat. If you get arrested while protesting, remember not to say anything without a lawyer. Whatever you choose to do, be wise, be safe, and act with measured purpose toward real solutions. And don't forget to Yang Daily.